The effect of the flight ground switch on the main outflow valve varies with the mode selected. In manual mode, the flight ground switch operates the same way on the ground as it does in flight. Now touch the flight ground switch to position it to flight. Positioning the flight ground switch to flight allows incremental movement of the main outflow valve. Now touch the flight ground switch to position it to ground. Positioning the switch to ground allows continuous movement of the valve. Now touch the mode selector to position it to standby. In standby mode, the flight ground switch has no effect on cabin pressurization in flight. Now touch the flight ground switch to position it to flight. Positioning the switch to flight pressurizes the airplane, when it is on the ground, to the altitude set in the cabin altitude window. Now touch the flight ground switch to position it to ground. Positioning the flight ground switch to ground depressurizes the airplane when it is on the ground. Now touch the mode selector to position it to auto. In auto mode, the flight ground switch also has no effect on cabin pressurization in flight. Now touch the flight ground switch to position it to flight. On the ground, positioning the switch to flight pressurizes the airplane to approximately 200 feet below the airport elevation. Now touch the flight ground switch to position it to ground. Positioning the switch to ground depressurizes the airplane. The outflow valve indicator shows the position of the outflow valve in all modes. The indicator requires AC electrical power. The cabin altitude differential pressure indicator shows the cabin altitude on its inner scale and the cabin differential pressure on its outer scale. The cabin climb indicator shows the pressure rate of change inside the cabin. Now touch the altitude horn cutout button. The warning horn sounds intermittently when the cabin pressure exceeds 10,000 feet. The altitude horn cutout button silences the altitude warning horn.